Hello, my name is Chris de Koning and I am fascinated by the history of astronomy, and I would like to stimulate your interest with the following tale. Imagine Cape Town in the year 1894. The Royal Observatory at the Cape of Good Hope was one of the foremost observatories in the world. At the helm was David Gill, one of the leading astronomers of the era. I want to read to you a letter that David Gill received sometimes late August or early September 1894. I would imagine that he was in his office, drinking a cup of tea and probably puffing on his pipe when his secretary brought him his mail. Here we have the letter that Frank McClean wrote to David Gill. I'm not going to read the whole letter. You can pause the video and read it at your own leisure. I'm going to read the first paragraph. I quote, "Dear Dr. Gill, it has been my wish for some time past to offer a large telescope equipped for photographic and spectrographic work to one of the public observatories in the Southern Hemisphere, and by preference to the Royal Observatory at the Cape of Good Hope." Unquote. Wow! Can you imagine that? Frank McClean has chosen the Royal Observatory at the Cape of Good Hope due to the directorship of David Gill to bequeath a major telescope with scientific instrumentation and a building for free. For the time, this telescope was cutting edge in design. It was capable of astrophotography as well as spectroscopy. I wonder how many times Gill reread the letter before the message sank in. If it were me, I would light the pipe, replace the tea with Scottish whiskey, and take the rest of the day off. The telescope would be known as the Victoria Telescope. Queen Victoria was still the ruling monarch of the British Empire, but would die before the official opening of the telescope in 1901. Here is a photo of the Victoria Telescope. You would recognize it, but probably refer to it as the McClean Telescope. Unfortunately, I do not know why the name Victoria Telescope fell into disuse and why it became popularly known as the McClean Telescope. In his book, Gill refers to it as a Victoria Telescope with one exception. This exception was probably due to an oversight by the proofreading team. Let us look at the telescope. The thicker tube on the top is a photographic telescope with an aperture of 24 inches, and the lower tube is the visual telescope with an aperture of 18 inches. The telescope, as mentioned in the letter, was manufactured by Sir Howard Grubb, Parsons and Company Limited of Ireland, more commonly known as Grubb Parsons. However, as a result of the political situation in Ireland at the time, the workers perceived the company as pro-British and thus stalled construction. This meant that the telescope was completed a year late, in 1898. The objective lens had to be sent back for reconfiguring, which was probably due to sabotage by Grubb employees. In the letter, McClean referred to the scientific instrument as the slit spectroscope. It became known as the four-prism spectrograph. By analyzing starlight through spectroscopy, the first detection of two chemical elements, namely silicon and keropium, were made with this telescope. The objective prism shown here is now housed in the museum in the McClean building, which used to be the laboratory. In the letter, Frank McClean refers to a light observatory to house a telescope. As you all know, the current building is a very sturdy, heavy-duty building. I don't know the story behind the change of building requirements. My guess is that the British Admiralty was willing to spend the money and they asked Sir Herbert Baker to design the building. Baker was one of the top architects of the British Empire. For example, he designed the Union buildings in Pretoria, Groote Schuur Estate, as well as this building. The dome was built by T. Cook and Sons Limited of York in the United Kingdom. The floor can be raised and lowered by means of a hydraulic system. For interest's sake, I am posting this photo of the Hamburg Observatory 1-meter Spiegel telescope dome. You can see this style of building was popular. This building was built approximately 10 years after the McClean building. Who was Frank McClean? He was the only son of John McClean, a wealthy engineer. Frank McClean retired after working for only 11 years and spent the rest of his life on astronomical pursuits as well as collecting art and antiquities. He designed a spectrograph and installed a telescope at his home in Tunbridge Wells, similar in concept to the one he bequeathed to the Royal Observatory. With this equipment, McClean did groundbreaking research into the spectra of stars in the Northern Hemisphere. This prompted him to bequeath the telescope to the Royal Observatory in the Southern Hemisphere. He visited the Cape Colony in 1897 and using this telescope, McClean discovered the presence of oxygen in spectrographs from Beta Scorpii, Beta Canis Majoris, Beta Centauri, and Beta Crux. For this work, he was awarded the Gold Medal of the Royal Astronomical Society in 1899. It was a very controversial discovery at the time. The son of Frank McClean, Francis, is described as the godfather of British naval aviation. Here we have the reply from David Gill, which was, as expected, very gracious. Once again, I'm not going to read the whole letter, just the second paragraph. To quote, "The splendid generosity of such a gift, the great scientific need that it fulfills, the prospect of the gratification of scientific hope and aspirations which I have long cherished and had sorrowfully begun to abandon. All these have been constantly in my mind since the arrival of your letter." Unquote. To give a bit more background details, this was an exciting period for Cape Town. In this time, the town experienced one of the greatest population booms in its history, from 67,000 people in 1891 to 171,000 in 1901, mainly as a result of the mining boom at Kimberley as well as the Boer republics, and the resulting South African War, which many of us know as the Second Anglo-Boer War. Gill was a phenomenal astronomer and a capable director of the observatory. 12 years before Gill received the letter from McClean, he helped to pioneer astrophotography. Gill took this image of the great comet of 1882, and because of this, he realized that from photographs you can deduct scientific details, and so astrophotography was born. Some of the other exciting scientific developments was the invention of the radio by Marconi in 1887. Röntgen discovered X-rays in 1895. Becquerel discovered uranium rays or radioactivity in 1896. Marie and Pierre Curie started their research in 1898, the same year that the telescope was completed. The official opening occurred on 10 September 1901, officiated by Sir Walter Helly Hutchinson, Governor of the Cape Colony. Sir David Gill is standing to the right of the Union Jack. Now we refer to him as Sir because he was knighted on 24 May 1900. Found this video interesting. This video was mainly based on the book titled A History and Description of the Royal Observatory, Cape of Good Hope, written by Sir David Gill himself.